evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Monday night. It's 9:30. Me and Mark are asking the same question we ask every Monday night. What's going on? I tell you what, I asked that most of the game on Sunday, to be honest with you, which we're going to get stuck right into tonight. There's so much to cover. I'm sure a lot of you are still annoyed, still wound up. We want to say thank you to all the views and the interactions in the last couple of videos we did, where I was very, very honest in my opinion about the manager, about the players, about the squad, about where this whole project is going or where it's not going. So we do appreciate all of the new subscribers and everyone who's hit that button. So thanks for that, guys. If you haven't already, smash subscribe on this one. Help get us to the next milestone. We're within 100 mark, aren't we, of 13,000, which is amazing. Thank you very much. And for anybody listening on Spotify
now, I think.
Yeah, but anybody on Spotify listening on the audio, come and jump on YouTube and click that button as well, guys. We really appreciate that. But my word, there's so much to get into. I'm still not over this derby. I really am not. I was quietly raging on the post-match. Like some people even said, "Why aren't you going nuts and screaming?" And I said, "I'm just exhausted about the whole thing," which we're going to get into now. But I think the biggest question mark really is obviously been on the manager over the last few days, and we'll get into his cheerleading squad in the media. My word, they're working overtime. I've seen these people do more cheer routines than the Bring It On movies. I think some of the media cheerleaders for Eddie Howe. It's incredible. I don't really spend a lot of time on social media anymore, but I dip in and out. It's a bit like a bar, where you just nip and have a quick beer and then run off because you don't like it in there. I have seen some of the ridiculous endorsements for the manager. Now, I will caveat that by saying there has been some quite abusive terminology used towards the manager. I don't think we need to do that. We don't need to call him names. I know I had a bit of a blowout with him a few months ago, but I apologise for that because I did step over the line a little bit. We don't need to call him, the see you next Tuesday word and all that kind of stuff. He's been a good manager for Newcastle by and large most of the time he's been here. He seems like a really decent bloke, but he is struggling as manager. And the first section, Mark, we're going to talk about is it time up for Eddie Howe? Now, this is the big question that everybody's asking, really. In the fan base right now, I believe that the fan base are asking it. Most of the fan base are asking it. A lot of the media are trying to row away from it, trying to hide from it. But when you're not performing in games like Newcastle are, in the games, in the big games as well, we expect them to do more. Where all the talk in the lead up into it is, we owe these lot one. Revenge is on the cards. Dan Burns getting interviewed in the Blythe coffee shop at the end of the big Blythe road that you drive to, with Sky Sports. That's the first fixture we look for. We can't do what we did in the last fixture. And then they produced such a limp dick shit performance like they did. There surely has to be questions asked of the manager, regardless of his cheerleaders in the media. And I mean, you've been very on the fence, as you often are, mate. You do love a splinter now and again, don't you? But even for you now at this point, looking at the lack of ideas, the lack of positivity, the questionable tactics and lineups, the over-reliance on aging players that clearly look way off their pace, do you think it's now time up for Eddie Howe?
Yeah, I do. I think there comes a point in every. I've seen this line dripped out quite a lot today. Every journey has an end, and the journey's been and the journey overall for the club has been phenomenal from when he took over. However, there's a point in which things become stale, it becomes stagnant. There's no real sign of any change, and I've said for a couple of years that I guess in terms of his age, he's still relatively young. He's only 48. He's not young in terms of being a manager. He's managed nearly 800 games, so he's not young in terms of his experience as a manager. What I've wanted to see from him over a couple of years, and what I keep saying, is that when things aren't going right, when there are mistakes made, I want to see a manager that learns from those mistakes, and I'm just not seeing it at all. And it was evident again yesterday that mistakes made with the lineup, the mistakes made in terms of then approaching the game, the way that the players are set up to attack the game as an overall, not just that initial period. Mistakes in terms of then personnel bringing in during the game, the in-game decision, those things I'm not seeing changes for, and I'm seeing a club at the moment that just is really treading water. They're not making any progress. We're not seeing progress in terms of the player development on the field. The ideas just aren't there. There's nothing fresh about what Eddie Howe's trying to do and what Newcastle are doing at the moment. It very much feels like the end of the beginning, because the whole journey of, I guess, after the takeover, this was always going to be the beginning part of it, and I think we're getting to the end of that part now.
No, absolutely. A few comments coming in already. We've got JK saying Eddie's a coach that puts sessions on. That's it. He's married to 4-3-3, like for like subs in 65 minutes, and players out of position, wasted money massively because of his nephew. He wanted to control. That's something the press are really giving him a free pass on. We've got a new member there, Hans. Is it Eric Jacobson? I feel like I'm reading a novel there. He's a new member of the channel. Thank you, mate. Really appreciate that. Which is nice to see new members. You'll have access to our Discord group as well, Hans. It should be in the link. If not, we can point you in the right direction. Or Mark can anyway. We've got a comment there from what we're thinking here. So we've got, is that retired? Retired. I can't remember. My eyes are working. Retired and reflective. Maybe my eyes should be retired. You can give a comprehensive appraisal of where NUFC are. I think you provide a refreshing analysis that looks at the club in the round. Thank you very much, mate. I think that's a compliment. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, mate. I've got a second guess it sometimes, I tell you. Vincent's in the chat saying, in some ways, feels a bit for Eddie. Up until this week, we were playing games consistently, but little time for training and rest, using a thin age in the squad. But on the flip side, Chris mentioned earlier today, tactical team selections, in-game management players were brought all down to him. Stats-wise, the amount of points dropped is acceptable. Well, that's the thing. No team has dropped more points than Newcastle United from a winning position. I think it's 22 points that they've dropped from a winning position, which is the worst in the Premier League, I believe. The big issue that I have with the cheerleaders of Eddie Howe, and I've seen some just ridiculous takes, really. There was a very prominent journalist, I won't name him because I don't want to do that. But he called the people who want the manager gone the Eddie out crew, which is incredibly patronising, in my opinion. And he also said there was no debate to be had. And then following 299 comments or something to his post, basically, counteracting that by saying, what you're talking about, he then decided to use the Eddie Howe out crew. But it's no surprise because he writes for the club in the match programme, so he can't really be impartial, can he? But for me, the issue is with football management, and I said this in my videos, Mark, there is no more high-pressure job outside the Prime Minister than a football manager, I believe. Certainly not a Premier League football manager. You are judged game to game, result to result. It doesn't matter what you've done, it's what you're doing is how you get judged. And that seems to be the kind of norm in football. But Newcastle fans seem to have gone down this little rabbit hole of this manager, some fans anyway. And I think he actually, for what it's worth, I think he lost a lot of support on Sunday for a lot of fans who were backing him. Paul from the Toon Review was at the game. And he said a lot of people he was listening to in the crowd, talking to in the crowd, who were massive Eddie Howe fans, said that's it, they've had enough, they're done. And I think there's a lot of fans who have gone that way. I mean, you heard the boos, they were audible, weren't they, at full time?
Yeah.
And you couldn't explain them away. And even some of the people who have accused the boos of only being confined to the corridors of social media and the sewer that we all dwell in. It's all right in here, actually. It doesn't smell too bad in the sewer, to be fair. It's quite nice. I've got lights here. I've got little cats running around. It's quite a nice sewer. No Ninja Turtles, but it's a decent sewer nonetheless. But even they've had to realise and be honest now and say that it isn't just confined to small pockets of fans who don't go to games. It's fans who now go to the games, because what they're seeing is shit. That they're not seeing a team that tries. I mean, Alex from the True Faith podcast, who we both know, he's a very calm, measured guy, is Alex, isn't he? And my word, he went nuclear on his post-match reaction, which is, I think, it's the angriest I've ever heard him. That was raw straight after the game. That's a season ticket holder that was absolutely sick to death of watching just this limp dick Newcastle United, and we saw it again, Mark, didn't we? We were gifted a goal. I even said, I thought, we're all over Sunderland here, but was that Sunderland's plan to absorb that pressure, knowing the press had a limited time cycle like it does, and then they just put themselves on the game, and obviously Big Robbie just shoving our defence around, and they turned it on, they won the game, De Vries made some really smart subs, didn't he? And Eddie Howe had no counter to that. And Mark, this has happened too many times, hasn't it, this season? You've got some stats about how shit we are in the second half of games, and it's quite mind blowing how people can counter argue this. It really is.
Yeah, I think. I sort of, all in my head had it as like second half United. It was there is sort of a stat basically that looks at first half table and second half table, and at home Newcastle are right bang in the middle. They, in the first half of games at home, if they ended at half time, they would be sat in 11th place. In the second half, if the game ran from 46 to 90 minutes, they would be in 11th place. They would have picked up 23 points in the first half and 21 in the second half. That's not where I think the major problem lies for them in terms of the switch between first and second half. In that regard, away from home, it's shambolic, because you go from first half of away games sitting 7th, where you'd have 20 points from the games there. In the second half of away games, Newcastle would be 19th. Or they are 19th in the table of those away games. So the 15 away games in the second half only, they would have won 1 game, drawn 10, and lost 4, and would be only above Leeds on goal difference. It's sort of telling where there is a difference, and you're right. The Leeds lost are 22 points across 31 games, where I think it works something like it's about 8 games or something where those points come from. But to have lost that, to lose those points, it is just awful. I think the other half. I think there are 12 points across the season that have been dropped from favourable halftime positions as well. As a slightly different look at it, rather than just a lead. So going in at halftime level and then losing and things like that. There's an awful lot where. But even just the eye test. The eye test is the biggest thing. Newcastle come out in the second half and just don't attack the game. I joked yesterday when Arsenal came out in the second half of the Cup, and I thought, has Eddie Howe given the team talk for them, because they came out and played exactly the same way. There's just nothing about them after half-time that comes up and says, we're going to attack this game. It's flat. There's just no reinvigoration. And yes, you're limited on time at half-time. But my God, you've got to get about the players if things aren't going right. There just seems to be no motivation in this group to put anything right that's going wrong early in the game.
Yeah, loads of comments coming about the manager here. You got Royal Elliott saying, let's get De Zerbi or Iriola and oversee the rebuild with Ross Wilson. How can't be trusted any more transfers? It's an interesting point, because it takes me into something, again, to give Alex a shout out from True Faith. He put this on X earlier on. And the signings that he's made in the summer, Eddie Howe, make no mistake about it, he was in control of these signings. All these players he scouted for 2 years. One signing I don't think he did make was Nick Voltemada. I think, and certainly from the sources that I got told, which I do believe are very, very reliable, that he wanted Benjamin Šeško. That was his number one target after you couldn't get Ekitike over the line, because Liverpool, I think there was some kind of unspoken agreement that if Liverpool wanted Isak, they would step away from Ekitike. Liverpool then decided to sign both, because that was Liverpool. How's that worked out for them this season? Brilliant. So that's all I'm saying about that. But Benjamin Šeško was the next go-to. Now, what's quite amateur about that is that the lad clearly fancied Manchester United over us, because he had Manchester United affinities. Ronaldo was his favourite player. He supported them, I think, all that kind of stuff. The worst thing was they sent a jet and an entourage of 6 people over to meet him, and we tried to talk them on Teams, I think, with Andy Howe. So you're talking about light years apart there. So when Benjamin Šeško wasn't signed, it seems very much so that Nick Voltemada was the kind of consolation prize. Oh look, we've signed this great young promising striker who's just finished top goal scorer at the under-21 championship. Isn't he a great player? But he wasn't the kind of player that Eddie Howe wanted. In terms of, he wanted somebody fast that could lead his press and all that kind of stuff. But very interestingly, so Nick Voltemada has been made a scapegoat by a lot of people unfairly, in my opinion. He's been assassinated, really, in terms of his lack of end product. But here's some interesting stats for you. This is courtesy of Alex Hurst from True Faith. Obviously, if you guys don't watch True Faith, I'm sure a lot of you do, or listen to True Faith. Great podcast. Go check it out. Alex put this out earlier on in the day, I think it was. And this is league games at St James's Park this season, where Nick Voltemade has started 9 games as a centre forward. Newcastle have got 20 points. Anybody else starting up front, 7 games, Newcastle have got 6 points at St James's Park. On Sunday, he decided to take Voltemade off altogether, Mark, and didn't even give him a sniff up front. What on earth is he doing? It's worked for 9 games previously. Why haven't you tried it even for 10 or 15 minutes anyhow? I don't get it.
And the biggest point of that was the same point. You're bringing on the best crosser of the ball in the club.
Yeah.
To put the ball in the box. And one of those...
Every game?
Pretty early on, whips a ball across. There's not a centre forward in sight. Harvey Barnes was as closest to it. You've got a 6'7" centre forward that wants to play in that area, wants to play up front. And what do? You bring him off. And it's the same time and time. And we see this. We see the Eddie Howe substitutions. They're always at the same time.
Predictable.
That it's always pretty much that you can telegraph who's coming on for who at any given moment. It's rinse and repeat with the same thing every single week. And against some teams it will suit, and against an awful lot it won't. And we've said it time and time again this season, when you get a side like Sunderland that are going to sit back, they're going to absorb pressure, they're going to hit you on the break, they're going to play with that low block, as they call it. Newcastle haven't got a clue how to break that down because they're not given the tools to do it. They're not set up in a way that can create enough space to do that. How many times did we see it this weekend where Sunderland were playing with players in that gap that we used to call it the Eddie Howe gap, didn't we? In between the midfield and the defence, play in that hole in there and be able to get the ball on the turn. Sunderland did that at the weekend. Newcastle are nowhere near. They've got nowhere near enough players that will be in that position because they're not coached to do it. They're not set up to do it.
No,
and it's just set up to fail. Against those sides, they've not shown anything where they're set up to combat that. The wins against those sides have been really lucky at times this season. You go back to Wolves and Burnley, Fulham, which was very, very nearly a draw. Burnley nearly escaped St James's Park with a draw. Wolves, who were absolutely shocking to start the season with, it was 1-0, and Wolves probably could have scored in that game as well. It was... There's nothing about playing those sides that realistically, given the money that's been spent on the squad as a whole, and we'll come to that in a little bit, I think, that they're just not ready to take on those sides. No, it's appalling.
It's interesting though, because the players, if you go back and watch any interviews about the players, right, and the players love talking about Eddie Howe, certainly in the good times, Big Dan Burn in particular, Kieran Trippier. They have said on numerous occasions that this manager is so methodical, they know exactly where every single one of them has to stand on the pitch and what they have to do, right? So here's my situation, or my question here to the media who constantly absolve the manager of any blame, right? They're blaming the players. They're blaming a poor lad from Germany who's playing out of position in midfield. So you're not blaming the manager for anything, right? But these players have told you on several occasions that he's so methodical, he tells them where to stand, when to move, where to move, all that kind of stuff, right? Are you telling me that these players, like Anthony Gordon, who play with pace and intensity in your face, and Jacob Ramsey and Lewis Hall and guys like that, are you telling me in their minds when the second half comes that they are just naturally dropping back 15, 20 yards and not playing their natural game unless they're being told to do so by the guy on the touchline? That's utter bullshit. They're following the guy's instructions who's on the sideline because they're playing one way in the first half. He gets them in the second half, and they lack anything. They lack intensity, they lack drive, they lack creativity, they lack effort on Sunday, right? And they're arguing with each other because this hasn't worked or that hasn't worked. It's by design. It's by design. This manager is so methodical that he works everything out to the finitest detail. And whatever he's doing is not working. And the players are not responding well to it. And more importantly, the opposition are reading it because the opposition know Newcastle's game plan is, especially at home, is to get in your face, press for 10 minutes or 20 minutes maximum, and then the drop off. If they go a goal ahead, the drop off. And Eddie Howe was half challenged about that in the post-match conversations. By the way, no players out in front of the written media, which was cowardice in a game like that, where you've just been annihilated 7-2 by Barcelona a few days ago, and you've just lost a game you must win, and you don't have the balls to come out. We seem to have 14 people in this leadership committee. Where's the leaders? Where's the leaders to come out and actually talk and front up to the press and say how poor that was? They weren't there. And that was really telling by the club, really telling. But the manager is told the media to blame him, but the media won't blame him. They're blaming fans and they're blaming players, and they're not blaming the manager. And the manager is still a genius. The manager has got all the answers. The manager can not be faulted because he's won 2 trophies in his entire career, and one of them was at Newcastle, the third most desirable trophy in English football, by the way. Not that I'm doing it at disservice, because it was the first trophy we won in 70-odd years, but it's the third most desirable trophy in English football. And people are acting like he's won a Champions League or a Premier League. And it blows my mind. Claudio Ranieri got more shit from the media after he won the Premier League with Leicester fucking City than this guy is getting for winning the Carabao Cup with Newcastle. It's such double standards. And I still stand by this. If his name was Eduardo Hernandez, they would have been calling for his head 6, 7, 8 months ago. That's the truth. He's a media darling because they see him as the England manager in waiting. And he's very articulate. He's very charming and all that other stuff as well. I'm sure he's a lovely fella. If I had a coffee with him, I'd probably go, what a lovely man he is. But I'd still say, why the fuck you playing Trippier and Dan Burn every week? I'd still ask him that question, even if he bought me a latte, because I want to know why you're playing. Why are you playing guys in their 30s who don't have the energy to play your pressing game anymore? I don't get it. But it was just, the whole thing was shambolic, Mark. It was absolutely shambolic.
Yeah, I think one of the things that strikes me as well is the lack of comeback, and that I don't know whether enough is made of the fact that we've heard on several occasions this year when Eddie Howe's been asked about why things are happening and what his answer has been, I don't know. And that's gone on for months.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sorry, but you're a professional football manager that's paid an awful lot of money. You're paid to come up with these answers. It should not be taking you months to come up with something that's going to do with something different. And how many times have we talked about doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting the definition of insanity, isn't it? But nothing changes. Everything stays the same. It is Groundhog Day at times, and
predictable.
There's the odd result that papers over some cracks for a while, but then we get back to the same thing again. We start talking about the same issue. We're now looking at a stretch of games where Newcastle have lost 4 of their last 5 home games. That's unthinkable for the club when you consider the run that they've been on over the last few years. To be in a position where that's now the case, and those games are. It's not like we're talking these games are against the upper echelon. Those games are against Villa, Brentford, Everton, Manchester United, and Sunderland. The only win being against Manchester United. It's an appalling run, and I'm baffled by the fact that you can look at the way things have gone, and it's not just this season. It was the back end of last season when performances weren't right as well.
It was,
and I've said it time and time again. He has to learn from mistakes. He has to try something. He's got to do something different because the tactics that he's trying are clearly not working as a whole. Well, have something else.
Yeah, there's actually something doing the rounds, and it's been doing the rounds all season. Certainly, when the form has been dipping, it's an entry from, I think there's a Bournemouth fan doing a podcast when Eddie Howe got sacked at Bournemouth, or a week before he got sacked at Bournemouth, and everything that they're saying in that is exactly the same as what we're seeing at Newcastle. Playing players who are past their prime, the signing's not working, all that kind of stuff. It's exactly the same, and it's quite terrifying how he clearly not learned from his mistakes. Magpie 50 has been a member for 3 months. Thanks, buddy. We've regressed 3 years. Need a massive rebuild. We do. Toon Reviews in the house. Good to see you, lads. Good to see you, Paul. All right, lads. What the hell did he say at halftime? I have no idea. I generally don't. I mean, any other manager who was getting that negative performance from his team. I mean, look how the press turned on Ruben Amorim. That was just. I mean, he was poor, right? He was stubborn. He stuck to his guns. All this stuff, same as Eddie Howe in many ways, right? But because he was Ruben Amorim, he was absolutely vilified by the press and said he's the worst Manchester United manager they've ever seen. He needs to go. Da, 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 da. But Eddie Howe doesn't get that. We get told as fans, how dare you ask the question? Who do you think you are? Look what he's done. Look what he's done for you. And Paul, if Paul's still in the chat, Paul said it, and I've said it as well. It's not about what he's done. We'll never forget what he's done. It's what he's doing. Football lives in the present, lives in the now. It doesn't live in the then. It lives in the now, and it changes, and the expectations change with it.
It does, and the kind of the point on Amorim as well is, what did Manchester United change post Amorim? What did they do? Amorim was playing square pegs and round holes.
Yeah.
What has Michael Carrick done since he's gone in? He's played players in their best positions. He's gone back to basics and got the best out of the group of the players that are there. Essentially, Eddie Howe can do exactly the same thing: is get everything back to basics.
Yeah.
And just attack it like that. Stop trying to be clever, and just go back to basics with players in their right positions. If they don't want to play in those positions, then they get dropped. Because I'm sorry, if Gordon's better suited for a time playing on the right-hand side, then he gets played on the right-hand side, or he doesn't play at all. But those are the things. I cannot continue to watch Nick Voldemort play as a midfielder. He's a complete fish out of water. It's not working. It just isn't working.
Pause that thought a second. So Mark Hodges saying he had no choice but to play Nick there. I don't buy that, mate. I'm sorry.
Joe Willock had the game of his life almost last week against Chelsea.
Exactly.
And plays on the bench in this one. I don't
buy that.
I'm sorry. I don't buy that. He had an opportunity to have played Willock, Ramsey, and Joe Linton in this game. And to be fair, I said to you earlier on in the game, I liked what Ramsey was doing earlier on. I thought he was sitting in that like slightly deeper role. He was playing, coming and picking the ball up and moving on from there. That dropped away as well. But Willock was brilliant the week before, and he's dropped.
Yeah.
And the only thing I can think of, and I've seen this comment as well, is that Voldemort was played purely and simply for his height. I'm sorry, but you've got to be better than that. You've got to play to your team's technical strengths. And I think Gordon was right in some of his comments that they're better than Sunderland, but they've got to show it.
And they didn't want it more, though. And I said that in the preview. They didn't. It was down to who was going to want it more, and Sunderland wanted more. Simple as that.
But he's fallen into the trap of trying to just bluster its way through the game and go, well, we've got the bigger players, we're going to play like that.
Yeah.
Play to your team's strengths. And Nick Voldemort in midfield is not the strength.
But as you say, he's taken off Nick Voldemort, and he's brought in the best cross of the ball in the squad. It just makes no sense at all. If you're looking for height, why have you taken off the second tallest guy on the pitch who can get in the box and get headers? It doesn't bear thinking about it. It really, really doesn't. But I mean, the crowd definitely felt, made their feelings known to the players, certainly at full time. But I can't go any further without talking about a couple of horrible things, really. I mentioned it on the post-match preview. Some of the behaviour of the fans on the way into the ground, having fights with Sunderland fans. And it's sad enough that they have to have a police escort. It really is. You just can't regulate yourself as fans to let Sunderland fans just be Sunderland fans and we be Newcastle fans. And, and that's it. There is no reason to be a dick. Just let a Sunderland fan walk up to the ground if they want to chant "fuck the Mags" and you chant "fuck the Mackhams" or whatever, and then go take your seat and enjoy the game. It's sad enough that has to happen. And then you have fights breaking out. You have people throwing bottles at the team bus coming through. But I think one of the worst things of the game was the alleged, and I've got to say alleged because it's not been proven yet, but the alleged racial abuse that one of the Sunderland players received in the crowd. And it was funny because I was watching it from my armchair, as those journalists denigrate before, and I saw Kieran Trippier come over and talk to Anthony Taylor. And as soon as he said it and he pointed, and the face that he pulled, I think I texted you, Mark, and I said, I think someone said something here. And then they ran onto the pitch and they talked to the Southern player, which I believe was Gertruda?
Gertruda. Yeah,
Gertruda. So somebody ran on, I don't know who it was, one of our players actually tapped them kind of on the back to say, "Are you okay?" And he just kind of pulled the face. And you could tell straight away that it was racial abuse, and it was confirmed later on in the game. I don't know whether the club has made a statement on that. I know Sunderland did, and the Premier League did. They have racist statements. So the club has said. So statement from Newcastle United from the Tannyway derby was, we're aware of a report of racism made by a visiting player against someone in the crowd during our Premier League match against Sunderland. Our stance is clear. We do not tolerate discrimination of any form. We will work with authorities to fully investigate and ensure any individuals are identified and held accountable. Now, there is no room for that in football at any level. No. There's no room for that in society, really. It's disgusting. I don't care how volatile the atmosphere is in a derby. You don't do that to people. And I hope whoever it is banned from St James's Park for life. I generally mean that, because there's no place for that in football. It's absolutely fucking disgusting. So I had to say my piece about that.
No, absolutely right. I'm with you. No, nothing more to say other than that. I text you afterwards and just said, find them, ban them. That's it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Kai says, I've got a posh sewer. I've got a posh sewer, very posh sewer. bit like Killer Croc in the Suicide Squad. I've got my flat screen telly. But yeah, I mean, there was another thing that happened in the ground as well. Obviously, the boos were deafening. Good time at Magpie 50. The boos were deafening. What was interesting was the team decided to still do this weird lap of honour, or lap of dishonour, as it probably should be called, after the weekend's performance, which was shocking. And a lot of real dedicated fans stayed back to boo the players as they were walking around the lap of honour as well, which was, I don't know why they would expect anything different, to be brutally honest with you. And it has prompted some comments, which we're going to get into right now, about actions, not words. Now, Mark's going to throw this up on the screen for you, and I'm going to read this out. And Mark's going to have a little breather here while I say my piece about this person and what I think about this statement. Now, I'm going to be careful not to call her names, because she's been attacked on social media and called some very horrible things. And I'm not going to join that club, but I'm going to tell you what I think about it. So this was a statement from Sienna Tyndall. If you don't know who Sienna Tyndall is, how could you not? She's Jason Tyndall's daughter, who mainly supports whatever team Daddy happens to be the assistant coach for. And I'll get into Tyndall in a second. So she said, losing to Sunderland hurts, because obviously she knows all about Tannyway derby, doesn't she? Especially on a day that should have been about togetherness and arrivals. It's not an airport, love. No one is pretending that result is acceptable, and the players know that better than anyone. But what's not acceptable, turning on our own. This group of players has given everything for this club, week in, week out. That's debatable with some of the performances we've seen this season. They're out there competing across multiple competitions, not anymore because they're out of them all, by the Premier League, with a squad that simply doesn't have the depth of some of the teams we're up against. Fatigue is real, Mark. Fatigue is real. Pressure is real. And still they show up and fight for the badge every single time. It's easy to forget just how far this team has taken us, she says. The progress, the pride, the nights we've all celebrated together, that didn't happen by accident. It came from this group, this manager, Uncle Eddie, as she calls him, this effort. Fans can be fickle in moments like this, but we're supposed to be better than that. Behind every player and coach is a family who sees the abuse, reads the comments, and feels it too. That's not what supporting this club should look like. We can be disappointed, we can demand better, but we don't tear down our own. We stand behind this team always. Right, so let me tell you what I think about that while Mark sits back and takes a breath, right? I've got a saying. The answer to the question no fucker asked. And who the fuck asked you, Sienna Tyndall, about any of this whatsoever? Who the fuck are you? You are the daughter of the assistant manager of Newcastle United. Now, no other, you name me another assistant manager of the Premier League right now. Name me 5 and I would be surprised. Because this guy, your father, seems to have some kind of weird celebrity status, this Mad Dog Tyndall status that he's coined and he's owned, and he seems to think he's something more than a fucking assistant manager, right? So there's a problem in itself. The other problem that I have, I'm not going to call you names, but I'm going to tell you one thing. You're thick. You're thick as fuck. You haven't read the room. You know nothing about this derby. You're a privileged, rich little girl who's lived with daddy's money since you were a little girl. He pays probably for your fancy car. He pays for your credit card bill. He pays for you to fly to Dubai and have cocktails with your little mates and fucking skyscrapers. So here's a little bit of advice for you. Stop talking about a football game you don't understand. Go back to Instagram and like some male models post who's got a fucking 16-pack or something like that, and leave talking about football to the fans who spend hard-earned money to go watch this club put in dire shit performances like that in 2 tiny-way derbies, by the way, not 1, 2 this season against a team whose whole squad cost the same amount of money as 2 of our fucking strikers who can't get a game. These are people on the breadline. These are people who are skint. These are people who spend all of the money that they've got available on season tickets, on strips for their kids, on every other Adidas top that comes out. Money that for them, it means everything. To me, you means nothing. You lose it down the back of your fucking Lamborghini. So don't come on to Instagram and start talking higher and thou on your white steed of self-righteousness. You and Luke Edwards go right over the hill and fucking talk to each other about how wonderful Newcastle is, and neither one of you support them. He's a Leyton Orient fan, and all you do is support the team that Daddy happens to work for. Shut the fuck up and get on with it. So that's my take on Sienna Tyndall. I will now breathe, Mark, and ask you what you think about that, because I've had enough of these fucking people telling me how to feel about my football club. Fuck right off. That's what I'm saying about
that. My point, and it goes on similar lines, is how fucking patronising can you be to tell the people who've supported a football club for the vast majority, for their entire lives, how to support their own football club? Fuck right off.
Yeah. How did we get here? How did we get to the point where a 20-odd-year-old lass from London or from wherever, the fucking southwest of the country, is telling you, me, Paul from Toon Review, fucking True Geordie, Alex from True Faith, Terry the taxi driver from Wild's End, Barry the bricklayer from fucking Bladen? How did we get to this point where this lass is telling us how to support our club and how to feel about our club? What gives you the right? Who do you think you are? Honestly, who the fuck does she think she is? Like, I don't condone people calling their names on social media and abusing her. That's a bit too far. And what she says about abusing people, I do agree with that, right? You don't slide into people's comments on Instagram and abuse them. We've seen some horrible stuff, with Joe Willock and people like that, and it's violent. It has no place in the world, right? But what you've just said there, Sienna Tyndall, is so condescending and patronising and so tone deaf to the kind of the enormity of that fixture and the way that those fans fit. And she didn't need to do it. That's the daft thing. You didn't need to do it. It wasn't your place to say it. You didn't need to do any of that. I don't know whether she's taken it down, but I hope the fuck she has, because just absolute nonsense. And, and you've got no right to talk like that. And all it'll do is put pressure on your dad even more. You're just going to put more pressure on your dad, because fans will read that, get pissed off, and, take it out on him from the crowd, probably. I hope he's told her to delete it, mate. I really do. Because just...
Well, whatever. She has made her account private now. I think that's probably on
she's
the back
probably had abuse, which isn't nice.
And that's not right.
Nice. That's not right either. No.
Fuck me. You said it there. Read the fucking room, man. I mean, come on. You can see the feeling of the fans, the fans of the club, not the family of the people that have come in a couple of years ago. These are the fans. These are the bread and butter, the lifeblood of Newcastle United. That have been there through thick and thin for God knows how long. To come out with a statement like that, I understand sort of the sentiment, but you've got to read the room about what's going on at the moment, the way that things have gone, the importance of that game to Newcastle. You just cannot come out with that sense of entitlement and the put down of the fans that are feeling absolutely enraged over a derby game that has gone like that. And it's not the only one this season, because both of them went the same way. It's the run of derby games that now stretches at 11 games. You just can't. I'm so sorry, but it's just utterly ridiculous.
It's absolutely, it's unnecessary as well. You just don't have to do it. You just don't have to do that. It's not your place to do it. I'm pretty sure that Jason Tyndall wouldn't have wanted his daughter to whack that up on Instagram, knowing how volatile the mood was, knowing how angry people were, in the crowd and stuff like that. Just honestly, like, maybe I will get clipped up. Hopefully I won't. But at the end of the day, I've not said anything abusive about her person. I've just said she's thick as fuck, and I would happily tell her if I saw her in the street. Because it's not your place to say it. really isn't your place to say it because you don't know anything about these people. You sit in the posh seats up in the boxes in St James's Park, and you look down upon them like they're ants, like they're nobodies, like they're nothings. And then you go back home to your mansion, and you're getting your fucking fancy car that probably is more than any of these people earn in a year, and you've got the audacity to stick that on your Instagram. When you're tighten with your fake nails, probably. Do you know what I mean? It's just bullshit. Your fake nails would probably cost more than the fucking people's, food shopping that they've probably spent on their kids. You're so far off the fucking map here. These rich, privileged people like her are so far off the fucking map. It's just beyond belief. And they're tone deaf. They're so tone deaf. I'm not getting political on this channel, right? Because God knows we're not, right? But this is akin to, a certain former politician used to burn £50 notes in front of homeless people. They just don't understand it. They don't get it. They don't understand it. She doesn't understand it. What was more worrying was people talking about, oh, she gets it online. I mean, to be fair, I only saw really, really small amounts of people agreeing with her. Because I think the majority of the fan base couldn't believe it. And, these are sensible people as well, sensible content creators and Newcastle fans with large social media followings that were just saying, what on earth is she talking about? Really unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. And she just didn't read the room at all, Mark, did she? And I just, and the whole thing was actions, speak louder than words. The players were giving it the big in, the manager was giving it the big in about the enormity of the fixture, and they go and turn that in, as a team, as a coaching setup, as a team of players, and everyone was like, oh, well, we've got Geordies in the team, Graham Jones is on the bench, Dan Burns playing, they understand. I didn't see anything from Dan Burn in that game that showed me he was wanting to go the extra mile. I saw him walking, I saw him slowing the pace down, I saw him one point underlapping Lewis Hall. All I could see was the back of Lewis Hall's head, and I can still read his mind going, where the fuck are you going? Like, you're getting in my way. He was trying too hard, Burn, and everything he was doing wasn't good enough, and it just blew my mind, man. Blew my mind. It really
did. The flip side of that, of those players that understand the thing, I think that the comment that I saw at the weekend was...
I was saying that was running up for less than an hour, but probably because the abuse you got, to be fair. So.
Yeah. But where was... I mean, I've nearly called the other video that you did today, no fight, no passion, no imagination. Yeah. Where was that yesterday? Where was the fight in that performance? Because
wasn't any.
I'm right. No one got booked. There was no thunder and challenges that we normally see in games like that.
Where was
Joe
Linton
was a complete pussycat in that game.
Yeah, he was.
He just rolled over and had his tummy tickled. Dan Burn put a challenge in the first couple of minutes that wins a corner, roars to the crowd. That was it. That was the sum of it for the entire game. That there was nothing that spoke of in that performance of passion for the event in front of them, passion for the game and the atmosphere. That war flags were fucking amazing yesterday as well. The crowd was up at the very beginning, and the start of the game, I was like, right, here we go, and then the players just stopped, and there is a real lack of understanding around the fixture from everybody at the club.
Yeah, well, I've just left that comment up because I nearly forgot about this. And Golden Banjo DJ has just reminded me. I think I'm about to rev up the rage machine again. I'm going to have a hat trick of rages in this one. I haven't got to Out of Toon yet, where I'm going to rage about somebody completely different to do with football. There is football context to it. Johan Wisser liking the post of the Sunderland player. Was it Brian Brobby getting man of the match?
Yeah.
Was it Brian Brobby? Liking the Sunderland player getting man of the match. The game is never been more gone. The Newcastle United's number 9, who, by the way, has been dog shit since he signed for Newcastle. Outside of a couple of tap-ins, he has been crap. 50-odd million quid for this guy. Blew his knee out on a building site. No pre-season for Brentford. Shit. Absolute shit for Newcastle. Can't even get on the pitch for minutes in the last few games. Comes on, lost the ball. That was the only thing that he contributed to this game. And he then goes off and likes the opposition players' post for getting man of the match. What the fucking hell is going on there, man? Get him on the first plane to Saudi Arabia Don't pass go. On you fucking go, mate. Get rid of that player. He is crap. He is one of the worst Newcastle United signs I've ever seen, pre or post takeover. He offers absolutely nothing. He makes Riviere look like fucking R9. That's how bad he is as a signing. And wouldn't you think you'd use your head? Wouldn't you think? As I know footballers aren't the brightest, right? But Johan Visser must be clever. He wears glasses when he walks to the ground. He must be clever, right? Surely you use your fucking brain, Visser, and go, actually, I better not like that. These lot aren't really convinced by me. I've just been part of a team that stomped the place out, been booed off the pitch. Maybe I shouldn't like my mate's Instagram post. It's not like he's on a holiday with his yacht or something like that, or he's got a new dog in the back garden. He's holding up the man of the match performance against your team that he's beaten comfortably because you lot didn't turn up. Just use your fucking brain, man. If you've even got one. Scary stuff.
I think the other one as well. Sean Neve liked, is it Chris Riggs' post as well? I get it if you
stupidity.
Youthful stupidity is that, but again, you understand this fixture, or you're supposed to. Like, come on, you've got to do better than that. Fair enough, send him a message. You know what I mean? If you are good, mate, send him a private message. Well played. He is one of the I guess the rising stars of them. But for fuck's sake, come on. Again, read the fucking room, man.
I'm not even sure they're capable. Croc says, aim high, vote low. Fair enough. Not sure what that means, mate, but thanks for the super chat.
Keep the political stuff out of it.
Please. Sorry. I thought it was John Terry, not Croc the Croc. Believe that one for now. We are not a political channel at all. Not in the slightest. I thought he was... I thought he meant he mistyped Eddie Howe. That's what I thought he meant. That's why I read it out. I would have left it if I thought it was a political one. So naughty croc. Don't do that again. I'm just scrolling down a few comments before we move on. But it was such a depressing game. I'm so sick of this season. I'm fed up with it. I was talking to a good mate of mine, Steve, today, and he hates football because of this season. He absolutely hates football. And it's so unenjoyable being a fan of this club right now because what you're watching is shit, right? Make no mistake about it. What we're watching is borderline Steve Bruce, Sam Allardyce football. That's what we're watching. And don't make any bones about that. That's what it is. It's not exciting. It's not free-flowing. It's not great build-up play. It's shit. It's throwing. It's long throws. It's corners. I mean, by the way, how the fuck is the set-piece coach still in a job? Honest to God. Horrendous. Absolutely horrendous, man. Like, he couldn't set up across the street if he had a fucking lollipop lady with him. He's fucking awful. Like, defensively, we can't defend them. Offensively, we can't score them. Every single set piece is crap. Absolutely crap. Mainly because it's being taken by a 35-year-old who can't get the ball off the ground anymore, really, by the looks of it. But it's just, sack the bloke. He's shit at his job. Get rid of him. He's a coach. Move him on. He's not good enough. Clearly, right? So that's a nightmare as well in itself. But just such a depressing game from a Newcastle perspective, just absolutely rubbish in all possible way. And, the fixtures we've got coming up, Mark. I mean, I did a little predictor earlier on in our Discord group when we were chatting. And, I was being really honest here, right? Because I thought previously we'd win some games until I saw that performance against Sunderland. But we haven't got a game now for 3 weeks. Weirdly enough, like 6 of our players are going to play for England, which is mental when you think about how shit we've been. I don't know if that says a lot about England, to be honest with you. But there is 36 players in there. I think you were close to a call-up at one point, weren't you, mate? But so we're not playing. Yeah, he was in the shower. So we haven't got a game until the 12th of April, which is away at Crystal Palace, right? Now, we'll do a quick round robin here because not many games, right? I've got that down as a draw. What do you think? Draw or win or loss in that game?
Away at Palace, it's not really a good hunting ground for Newcastle, is it?
No.
I will go with a draw.
Do a draw. I'm going to go with a draw as well. We'll rattle through these quick. Let us know in the comments, guys, what you think. Bournemouth at home, I'm going for a defeat because we can't beat Bournemouth. That's Eddie Howe's kryptonite.
I'm going to sound like I'm really sitting on the fence. I'm going to go with a draw with that one as well.
God, you couldn't be more on defence if you tried. Arsenal away, I'm going for a comfortable defeat. Yeah. Brighton at home, I'm going for a draw because we can't beat them either.
I would agree with you. I think they always seem to put in a performance, don't they? So yeah, agree there.
Now, Forest at City Ground, I previously thought that Newcastle may win that game, but they can't even get it up for the fucking derby at home. I think they're going to draw that game because I think Forest have got a little bit of something left in them.
And they're starting to look like they're turning a bit of a corner as well. The performance they put in, I mean, Spurs are Spurs are
going down. Spurs are going down, by the way.
I'm starting to believe that. I think if Forest continue that vein of form, then that's going to be a really, really difficult game, and you can see Forest winning that one.
I'll tell you what, just seeing this comment there, it's a great comment from official OIRFC. The reason our players are making such poor decisions like Lycan, Scumble and Post is because the management is amongst the players. It's just another match for them. It's far evident. Now, I agree with that. I don't think that they get the enormity of the game at all. I generally don't think they understand.
Where's the club representatives looking after the players and
the press officers and people like that? yeah.
I mean, why are they not being sat down and kind of even the newer players in the squad taught the basics around what this game means and things? That's a huge failing if that's not happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Another comment there from Zephalo saying, Chris, I've actually stopped caring about it now. I'm more worried that Newcastle's going to end up with another Mike Ashley 15-year crap stretch. It's certainly not looking great. The all that vigor and excitement is all gone, isn't it, from the initial takeover? So back to these fixtures. West Ham at home. I've got us down to win that because we've normally got a good record against West Ham. And then Fulham away. I've got that as a we don't travel well, but Fulham away, I've got that as a draw. But Fulham are having a really good season, and they look very dangerous. And I think they're looking for European football, so we could easily lose that game. So I think I had it down as us getting 6 points out of a possible 21, and that puts us on 48 points. That's dreadful. It's a dreadful finish to the season. To a dreadful season.
It is. I think the record against Fulham is relatively decent over time, but even down at Fulham, it's not been too bad. But again, they've looked much better. The likes of Wilson and Jimenez have been in form. That's another and that could define a Europe. That could be a shootout for Europe, I guess, if other results go for it. It's going to be a really tough game, and I can see Fulham winning that.
Well, I mean, the way they're playing, I mean, Harry Wilson on a free's a no-brainer, by the way. Newcastle should definitely move for that. Dan with the super chat, he says he won't play youth, doesn't rotate, favouritism, bad recruitment, Prem-proven obsession, predictable, rigid tactics, poor subs, no plan B, then panics and throws a kitchen sink. He's done now. It's hard to disagree with any of that, Dan. Thanks for the super chat, pal, and a great comment, because I think that's very hard to disagree with, Mark, to be honest with you. It's incredible. It really, really is. Yeah, Ian saying Mark's sitting on the fence again. He'll get splinters in your ass. He's immune to it now, mate. He is. He's just, it's like one of them, when them people like lie on those pointy boards for like back alleviation. Mark's just completely exempt to sprinkles in his arse now, really. Oh my God, Ian, don't even dare. Callum Wilson, hat-trick, don't even dare, mate. Wouldn't that be a fucking pisser, wouldn't it? Thank you, Slothy Vlogs. Appreciate that, mate. Nice comment from you on a video earlier on as well, mate. Really appreciate that. But yeah, it's just so miserable at the moment, isn't it? It's just miserable. It really, really is. And, moving on to the transfer talk. I mean, the transfer talk in a minute seems to all be about players leaving. And I mean, I kind of dismissed it a bit. Obviously, I did my Chris's Corner, which is exclusive to members only. If you are a new member, you'll get that exclusive members only content as well. And I was very dismissive of Bruno Guimaraes potentially leaving, but the more I think about it, the more I'm starting to wonder whether something is going on, because Tonali I definitely think is gone. I'm worried about Lewis Hall getting fished out by people, even at the weekend, although the game was crap. He put in some unbelievable crosses. He's going to play for England in this international break. He'll probably start for England if he has a blinding game and goes to the World Cup and has a great World Cup. I'm concerned that big teams will come in for him. Livramento looks like he's already in Manchester. And to be honest with you, see with Livramento, I'd be saying to him, if your heart's not in this, mate, you're not playing, and I'd be promoting Leo Shahar to the first team. That's what I'd be doing. But Eddie Howe won't do that. He'll stick with Tino, even though he wants to move on. Do you know what I mean? So it's really, really worrying. It really, really is. Just, rats deserting a sinking ship, or stinking ship, both. John saying, to put us all into context, though, me and my family had more important news. My wife is cancer free. John, that's fucking mint, mate. That puts it all into perspective. Absolutely buzzing for you and buzzing for the family, mate. I really am. That's an illness that Mark and I know all too well. I lost my mother to that illness, and I'm just buzzing for you that your wife's got a clean bit of health, mate. And me and Mark both wish your wife nothing but good health going forward, pal. And well done. Absolutely buzzing.
Absolutely, mate. That's brilliant. And you're right. It puts an awful lot into perspective. But that's brilliant news, mate. And thank you for sharing that as well, because
yes, absolutely, mate. Absolutely,
it's a tough old thing to deal with, and yeah, that's awesome news. I'm really, really, really pleased for you.
It's a dreadful thing to deal with. The sooner that the world finds a cure for that, the better. I hope we see it in our lifetime. Fingers crossed. But that's great news, John. It really is. And some lovely comments from the community there as well in the chat, mate. Which I'd expect nothing less for something like that, which is absolutely class. But yeah, in terms of going back to transfers, I agree with Stephen there. Eddie Howe using FFP was a pathetic excuse. He was given that out really from the press, which is just one of them little kind of get out of jail free cards for Eddie Howe. And he talked about how we can only go as far as we can go because of the spending restraints and everything else, and and I get what he's saying when you're talking about Liverpool, Manchester City, and Manchester United, Arsenal, Chelsea, right? But you know what? The teams above us, Brentford, and I said this, they lost their manager, they lost their star players, lost their captain. They're ahead of us. Hasn't stopped them, PSR. Bournemouth lost loads of players in the summer. Howson to Real Madrid. Semenyo hasn't stopped them. Brighton go out and scout young, talented players and make them superstars. Great young, talented coach who's tactically flexible in game. It's not stopped them being ahead of us. Sunderland, their squad costs the same as our two centre forwards. They're ahead of us in the league. So do me a favour, Eddie Howe, and come up with another excuse. And the press, do better. Stop giving him a tapping. That's bullshit.
Well, on that front, and I was looking at this earlier on, over the 5 years from 2021-22 to this season, Newcastle have spent about 700 between that and 750. I was trying to work it out in terms of the rate between what Transfer Market tells us in euros and what it would have been. So roughly £735 million they've spent over that period of time. There's a net spend, it's 423. There's a net spend, they're the fifth highest net spend in the league over that period, only behind Arsenal, Manchester United, Chelsea and Tottenham. Of total spend, they're the seventh highest. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, seventh highest. Ahead of West Ham, Villa, Forest, Wolves, blah, 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 blah. So of the teams above them in the league, obviously the big hitters, but Villa ahead of them and have spent 100 million less. Brighton above them, 175 million less. Everton, 376 million pound less. Fulham and Brentford, just over 400 million. Sunderland, they've spent 526 million pounds more than over the last 5 seasons. And they're languishing behind these clubs in the league. So it's not all FFP. It's not all about that. The one thing I did pick up from that was it's just the number of players that have come in, and Transfer Market stats a bit misleading because I think it counts the loan returns as a player in as well, so they're a bit skewed.
Yeah.
But of those teams, so this is everybody, including the likes of Norwich, Sheffield United, Ipswich, Leicester, all of those sides that have been in the Premier League in that period of time and have gone. Newcastle have got the least number of players that have come in. So talking about bang for their buck, they're really not getting it in terms of that, because if you're talking about £700 million on that number of players, it's almost a shocking return when the teams like Brighton, who obviously trade very, very well, they've brought in or had returned in 160 players that have come into the club, whether that's purchased or loan returns and things like that. But that seems you only have to look at the way Brighton deal with things, and the way Brentford deal with things, the way that they step on and they solidify that what they've got, and they know who they are. But I think there's not a very clever approach to the transfer window. And when you're looking to build a squad that competes in that, yes, you have to spend money, but there's an awful lot of money been spent. But again, I just don't think it's been spent in a very clever way. You have to look at the summer for that.
Why is he not developing the youth? That's a question that nobody seems to ask him, which really concerns me. George has gifted 10 ever more memberships. Thank you, George. Appreciate your generosity, mate. But yeah, I'm exhausted with this football team. I'm exhausted talking about it. The transfers are totally going to shift if or when we don't get European football at the end of the season. At the minute now, it's looking like there's going to be no European football. Conference will be the best bet you can get, and that's not really going to attract a lot of top players, and it's certainly not going to attract the retention of players that we want to keep. I think some of these players have already started to decide that their future's elsewhere, and I think come the end of the season, the manager could possibly follow them as well. But we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Now, the club has a big decision to make here. They'll either come out and back the manager and say that he will be here next season. And I think if they don't do that, I think they're hedging their bets to see the end of the season to see what happens. But, we've made our feelings clear at the start of the show. Eddie Howe has had a brilliant run at Newcastle. He's done brilliant things. He's got us in the Champions League. He's won us a trophy, and every Newcastle fan will be forever thankful for what he's done. But he looks like he's run out of ideas. This squad has been grossly left to rot and grow stale and stagnant. It needs a refresh. It needs new tactics. It needs new emphasis. It needs new thought process. It needs new energy, everything you can imagine. And I'm not sure the manager's still got that in his locker. I really don't. He may very well go on from here and be a great manager somewhere else, and I'm sure that he will, but I'm not sure he'll turn around at Newcastle. And I'm okay to have that opinion, and everyone else is okay to have that opinion as well, or have a separate opinion. That's fine, but we don't need to attack each other and pull each other down. But it is exhausting in a minute, and I just can't wait for this shit season to end. I really can't. But moving on away from Newcastle United, Out of Toon this week. It's nice to get away from Newcastle at times and talk about out of tune things. Something did flash across the radar. Normally in Out of Toon, I don't have a rant, but I'm definitely going to have a rant about this one. I don't know if any of you guys are up with your popular culture. We've got teenage daughters, so we know who this girl is. But there's been loads of heat going around online about an artist called Chapel Rowan. If you haven't heard of Chapel Rowan already, now this is a mental story. This is like you could think it was AI bullshit if it wasn't actually proven to be true. But Chapel Rowan was performing in Brazil, staying in a hotel, and who happened to be staying in the hotel at the same time was former Arsenal and Chelsea midfielder Jorginho's current partner and his stepdaughter, who also happens to be Jude Law's actual daughter. So stay with me on this. I feel like I'm on TMZ. So apparently the story goes, the young girl, who's only 11, by the way, walked past Chapel Rowan's table and smiled at her, then went back to sit with her mother. Chapel Rowan then sent over the security guard to lambast the little girl, screaming at her, shouting at her and her mother in the hotel. The little girl burst into tears, and they accused him of interrupting her privacy and all that kind of stuff. Jorginho then takes to social media to absolutely lambast her and call her out for basically being an arsehole and making this little girl cry. She then comes out and puts a post out saying, breakfast is basically my time. Don't interrupt my breakfast. I mean, I love my breakfast as well, to be fair, but I wouldn't make an 11-year-old girl cry, just because she smiled at me when she walked past at the table. She might cry when she saw me first thing in the morning, but I certainly would have made her cry just for walking past. And she was totally trying to. So she deleted that post quite instantly because obviously the PR people realised that that she'd come across like an absolute prick. But I've just watched this whole thing, roll out from there. I'm sure Brian, the True Geordie, will cover this in his non-football stuff better than me. But it blew my fucking mind, right? This stupid fucking woman, Chapel Rowan, has now come out and started saying, would you just walk up to a random person in the street and ask for a photo with them? No, they wouldn't, you dick, because they're not a celebrity. If you want to be a celebrity, that's the price on the ticket. Unfortunately, notoriety and fame comes with huge amounts of money in the background in terms of being an international, multiple record selling artist, right? If you just want to be an unknown artist, go play in pubs or clubs and don't be a fucking superstar. I don't understand these weird celebrities, Mark. They just do my nut in. They really, 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 really do.
It's baffling, isn't it? And I think she put a post out saying that it wasn't a member of her security. It wasn't one of her security guards, in which the family have come back and said, well, it wasn't a member of the hotel security, so it has to be one of yours, whether it's personal security or company security. Like, honestly, bollocks to it. It's just, yeah. I think if you're in a public space like that, you're in a hotel that's open, and somebody, like, it's a kid, man. Like,
yeah,
I'm sorry,
11 years old.
It's not like they've come over, tapped you on the shoulder, and do you know what? They've just walked past you. Just
no.
All it takes is a smile, a hi, and move on. That would have made that kid's year.
Exactly. Now she could learn a lot of lessons from John McGinn, who is one of the funniest footballers, I think, of all time, really. I still remember his knee coke when Ronaldo kicked off. Was it the Euros or the World Cup? I can't remember what it was when he threw the coke off the table. Was it the Euros? I think it might have been the Euros, possibly. But John McGinn...
Yeah, I think so.
Euros? I think it was. John McGinn was hilarious when that happened. So John McGinn's been at it again. So if you haven't seen already, Scott McTominay, who, by the way, I would have at Newcastle, because I don't think he would have rested on his laurels in a fucking tiny way derby. He scored a brilliant overhead kick the other day for Napoli. Great goal. Very similar to the one he scored for Scotland as well, funny enough, to help them qualify. But he was flying back for international duty in this lovely private jet. And John McKinn's comment sneaking in the bottom there, that's no easy jet. Which I just think is fucking brilliant. So I do love John McGinn. He's really funny. So we thought we'd pull that one up because that was great. And I love a bit of shithousery, as do you, Mark, as well. And if you haven't saw, Chelsea are having an absolute mare. I think they lost 4 games on the spin, and they were dusted by Everton, massively dusted by Everton, who had former Everton player Dewsbury Hall, who sounds like a National Trust site, playing for them, and he absolutely bossed that midfield. And Everton put this brilliant post out respecting the ball. As you remember last week, as we took the piss out of Chelsea, didn't we, for that, which was absolutely superb, to be fair. I do love a bit of shithousery. But it was also the Carabao Cup final, which we didn't get to at the weekend. Manchester City versus Arsenal. Man City won it. Before the game, it was a bit bizarre. So Tony Adams, who's become quite an eccentric character, must be said, was doing a pre-match talk, I think, wasn't he on? It was on Sky. I think it was on Sky, Mark. And it caught the eye of people. He was wearing some rude gear, was Tony Adams, and it did look quite familiar. And somebody on Twitter, or X, sorry, as it is now, pulled this up, and it was absolutely superb. And they said he looked like he was about to sell monorails to North Haverbrook and something else. And if you remember that, Eddie Simpson's fans in the chat, when the guy who's selling the monorail was dressed exactly the same way. So that was a brilliant tweet, mate. I love that. That's a great post.
That is one of my favourite Simpsons episodes as well. And that very, very fitting. The only thing he was missing was the hat.
Oh, he was, absolutely. And the piano as well. Marcus has gifted 10 level memberships. Thank you, Marcus. Really appreciate that. Buddy. Brilliant, man. So generous. But Harry Maguire's back in the England squad. Great day for Harry Maguire, wasn't it, when he got announced back in the England squad? But very much a typical game, a day in the life of Harry Maguire. So at 10 o'clock in the morning, he gets recalled to the England squad. Great stuff, Harry. And then 9:35 p.m., he gets a red card versus Bournemouth. So you couldn't get more Harry Maguire if you tried really well, could you, in all fairness? But
as days go, do you know what I mean? It just,
unbelievable, mate. Unbelievable. But funny enough, one player who was in that picture about Harry Maguire getting back in the England squad was Jack Grealish, who's not in the England squad because he's injured. But Jack Grealish, a couple of nice things I saw about Jack Grealish this week. The first one, which you haven't got, which I'll just talk about, was I think it was the Everton Down syndrome team visited Everton's changing ground, and he was getting a massage or something, and Jack Grealish gets a lot of jip. I mean, we all give him jip about the Miguel Almiron thing, but he does seem like a genuinely really nice guy, to be fair. And he was having a bit of crap with these lads from the Down syndrome team, and one of them said their favorite dance move was the worm, and he made them do it, and it was just wholesome, wasn't it? Lovely, and it was really funny, wasn't it? And he's a top bloke, Jack Grealish, by the looks of it. But something else he's done. He's kind of rallied to the defence of another former England player, Raheem Sterling, who's having a real bad time over in Feyenoord. And I know Raheem Sterling has got a bit of a rep, money chasing and all that kind of stuff when he went to Chelsea and all that, loan to Arsenal. But he's gone over to Feyenoord. He's definitely not the player he once was, Mark. But there seems to be pages out there just to kind of abuse him, really. Do you know what I mean? And give him nothing but abuse. And somebody put on there, obviously gave him a load of shit. And fair play to Jack Grealish. He called them out, didn't he? And fair play to them. I like to see that.
Yeah, looking after your mates, looking after your fellow pros in that regard. And like it didn't start well for Sterling, but he does take an enormous amount of stick, doesn't he? At times, it does seem very unfair at times, the amount of stick. I think some of it is brought on, but some of it's not. He gets an awful lot of grief that other players just don't get. I think he's becoming a bit of an easy target, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think he has. And there was a retirement as well recently this week. And if you remember this guy, what a baller he was for a time when he was at West Ham. I remember him scoring one of the best free kicks I've ever seen. It was against Man United. It was unbelievable. Dimitri Payet, who I think was not a stranger at controversy as well, but he's retired at the age of 39. He was playing over in, was it France he was playing in? And he retired. Did he move from France? Where did he go? Where did Dimitri Payet go when he actually retired? Was he over in like some weird Mexican league or something like that? I'm trying to remember. I'm just going to try and see where he was before he retired. Where was he? But he was a hell of a player, no doubt about that. He was a hell of a player in terms of his quality, his skill. Oh yeah, he was at Vasco da Gama. That's where he was when he retired. Vasco da Gama. But he was a hell of a player in terms of his skill, his quality, his ability to influence games. Weird enough, the kind of player that we would kill for in this fucking squad at the minute, because he's only 39, as Vincent says. Yeah, I mean, some players are retiring earlier and earlier. Why is my camera gone funny?
You've gone very blurry.
Yeah, 2 seconds. I'll just turn it off and on again. I did this the other day and it kind of fixed itself. No, I'm still blurry. That's weird. What is going on here? I will try and fix it. 2 tickety boos. No, it's gone blurry. I'll jump out and jump back in again. Hang on. You take control for now. Let me go. Let me go and come back.
While you do disappear, I will move on from this bit. So one of the other things that popped up in the news this week was the of Harry Kane, who's just been unbelievable since he's been at Bayern Munich. And he is now, I think, 10th in the highest goal scorers in the history of Bayern Munich. And I think he's been there about 5 minutes. But to be on that list that quickly, I mean, God, he was incredible at Spurs when you think about it. I mean, had he gone to a city when he got, I mean, Shearer's record would have been in serious danger, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think I said that, didn't I? Your own message when you sent me that ridiculous stat list. I said if he had got a City, Shearer's record would have been obliterated probably by him, because he's just been unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. But I'll tell you what else is unbelievable. Norwich City have been a bit naughty, haven't they, by the looks of it? So they failed to pay £99,021 and 76p. Don't forget that, to 1,152 workers in minimum wage. That's quite abysmal, really, by a professional football club, isn't it? I know you said it doesn't really work out as anything too severe when you break it down to its kind of finitest point, but it's still naughty, though, isn't it?
I mean, to not be paying the minimum wage is a little naughty. I don't care
just
what company it is, but to not be paying that amount of money out is not a very good look at all.
No. Good question there from Leo. Would you take Kane in the summer? Absolutely, 100%. I would take Harry Kane in the summer. He's unbelievable. Yeah, 80 or 90 quid each, says J-Dog. That's dreadful. Bloody hell, Delia, says Patty. I think Delia's gone now, mate, to be fair. Is she gone? Is Delia gone? Sure she is.
Where is she?
Where are you? Words. You know, it's getting late, but I'm impressed with that, mate. Well done. Very impressed with that. Very, very good. There was a very feel-good story as well, though, this week, and it involved it was a Watford player, wasn't there? So you talk us through this one, Mark, because we pulled this one up, and it was a brilliant story, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah. So I'm gonna butcher that. Eduardo Bove. Is it Bove or Bova?
Bove, I think it is.
Yeah, December 2024. Having a cardiac arrest on the pitch while he was playing for Fiorentina, and then to be obviously March 2026 scoring the first goal since his return. and have Roma fans who he was on loan to Fiorentina from at the time to be there to celebrate with him when he does it is a phenomenal story. And these things are just, I mean, we've seen those returns, the likes of Eriksen and stuff like that, and it's terrifying to see for all involved. Obviously, when you're seeing players on the pitch going down with issues like that, but a really nice way to end that story arc and to get the goal and stuff. It's just brilliant, lovely to see, really lovely to see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's it does put a lot of things in perspective in football when you see players collapsing like that and then coming back and doing it. And sadly, there's been quite a lot of them over the last few years, hasn't there? So it seems to be a something that's on the rise in football, which I really hope they get a hold of. But there was something, just while you were loading up the other one there, Mark, there was something that actually was into, not out of tune, and that's Sven Botman having a fractured facial injury, and he's going to be out for an extended period. So that's probably his season done then. And I've got to talk about this because, look, he got kicked in the face, by Mr. Brophy. I think the last person I see Mr. Blobby beat of that bar was Noel Edmonds in the house party, I think. But he kicked him in the face, so it is a bad injury to have. But how many times are we going to see Sven Botman injured? Like, I've never seen a centre-half so soft in my life than this bloke. I've never injury after. I mean, he makes Jonathan Woodgate look like he's made out of stainless steel. He's injured every fucking week. And surely this is a big problem for Newcastle now. He signed a new contract with us. Was it because he wanted to stay, or was it because nobody would take a gamble on because of his injuries? When he's fit, he's brilliant. He's a Rolls-Royce player. He's excellent on the ball, defensively sound, all that stuff. But he just gets knackered all of the time. And it's just getting really, really embarrassing. It really, really is.
Yeah, it's. I guess this one's unlucky, but it is scary just how many knocks and how many injuries he does pick up. And you're right, when he's on it, when he's fit and he's firing, he's an incredible player. But he just, it's far too many injuries, and it's pretty much the. I mean, we've seen the same really with Tino, haven't we? They just pick up far too many.
Look at that. Pat Max is saying he's missed 55% of the games since he signed.
We used to
mental, man.
We used to really complain about the fact that Callum Wilson was only fit for a similar sort of game time, and Botman's on far more money, and there's less cover, I guess, now in terms of that. It's just
there was talks that apparently we're after Scalvini in the summer. I know he's had injury problems as well, but I mean, I think that's a no-brainer to bring him in, because if Botman's going to be injured like that, I mean, we're now going to have Dan Burn week in, week out till the end of the season. I know Fabian Schär's might be back after international break, and I suppose worst case scenario, Lewis Miley could drop in there. But to be honest with you, the way Trippier's playing and Tino's heads in Manchester, I'd rather have Miley back at right back. And I don't like Miley at right back, but he's put a hell of a shift in there when he's played. And I'd rather have Lewis Miley at right back than either of those two. Because one's too old and one doesn't want to be here. So you're not left with many options, really.
No,
it's a great shot by Leo, by the way. And Antonio Silva at Benfica, he'd be a great signing as well. Yeah, big fan of him.
Yeah, definitely, and the younger player with plenty of time ahead of him as well, isn't it? But I'm with you. I think Miley was great at right back. He performed really, really well. But I want to see him controlling that midfield. I want to see the midfield look after the ball and do what they should be doing.
Miley's good at that.
Generating the tempo and moving the ball forward and creating stuff from there. As good as he's been, I just don't want to see him limited on that right hand side at right back. I really don't, and I really don't want to see him playing centre back.
No, I mean, to be fair, he's that good of a footballer. He can play anywhere. But I think Jacob Ramsey's quite similar as well. But I think Bruno and Miley have got to come straight back into the team, which is mental because they've been out injured for so long. But yeah, for me, thanks, Pete. Cheers, mate. Appreciate that.
Thank you, buddy.
But yeah, I just think that's what needs to happen. But I think that's us wrapped up, mate, really, for this week's show. Thank you very much, guys. Loads to get through. Sorry, there was a couple of long-winded rants in there, but I had to get them off my chest because a bit annoyed by a couple of people this week. Yeah, and that's it. But this is the kind of thing, guys. Like, remember to smash subscribe, help get us to the next milestone, which is 13,000. We're quite close. We're probably within 100, which is
80.
Excellent. 80. We're within 80 now, which is excellent.
Away.
So yes, appreciate that, guys. Appreciate all the new subscribers over the last couple of days as well. Misery does love company, doesn't it? When we're crap and we lose games, we do see we get quite a lot of views, to be fair. But listen, I've tried to remain relatively calm with it. Not have any personal attacks on the manager. We said that at the start. I don't really agree with calling them personal names and stuff, but I do agree with raising the concerns, asking whether he's still good enough to be manager of this football club. I think everyone's entitled to ask that question now. The form has been so bad in the Premier League. You know, the games that we've lost have been abysmal. The performances, the tactics, the in-game management, or lack thereof, the predictable subs, the lack of plan B, no activity in the transfer window in January, poor transfers in the summer. You're well within your rights to ask about the manager, and you're more than safe to do it in our chat as well, guys, as always. But thanks for watching. We'll be back with some more content. Even though it's an international break, we'll try and get a couple of videos out in this lull of international football. But thanks for watching in the meantime, guys. Have a belter, and we'll see you later.
See you, guys. Thank you.
Heroes celebrate. They have done it.